Over the past year, I copied and pasted the trades that millionaires and politicians made to see if I could actually make money. On November 7th of 2023, I had $1,500 in my account, and now I have over $4,000. My thoughts were, if a politician puts a ton of money into one trade, then they probably know some insider information, so why don't we just copy them and make a ton of money? Well, let's go back to the beginning of how this all started. My thought of copying millionaires and politicians' trades is by no means a new one, and plenty of people have talked about this in the past. Let's take, for example, Nancy Pelosi. She's a pretty well-known politician and has been heavily accused of insider trading.
And if you're not familiar with what insider trading is, it's basically using confidential non-public information to make a trade on a stock, and politicians like Nancy Pelosi know a lot of this secret information.
For example, in 2023, she bought over $2 million worth of Nvidia options, and since then, Nvidia stock price has increased by over 182% in this short time period, likely making her millions of dollars. Maybe she's just a really good trader, but it's likely that she does have some insider information because she did put 10 times her annual salary into that Nvidia trade, which is definitely not normal. Like, I mean, she's 84 years old. What does she need that money for? But that's besides the point. She actually ended up making another trade after the Nvidia one, and that's when I decided to jump in. You see, when she originally bought that large amount of Nvidia stock, she had a reputation for insider trading, so I wanted to hop in on the position with her. But I thought about how stupid I'd feel if I lost money on the stock after someone supposedly had insider information on it. But after missing out on Nvidia absolutely ripping, I decided the next time she made a big trade, I was gonna jump in with her. So when I found out that she made a large investment into a stock called Paulo Alto Networks, I jumped in as well. What is Paulo Alto Networks, you might be asking? I have absolutely zero clue. Please don't be like me. Do your research. I had FOMO. But Nancy Pelosi bought a large position in the stock twice. She originally purchased some, and then the stock price dropped a ton after they released earnings, and then she purchased some more. And that's when I felt like it was my turn to enter because the stock had a pretty big dip. So I bought one share of PanW for $309.45. And over the next couple of days, I was pretty pleasantly surprised to see that I was actually making money. And literally the day after buying the stock, I was already up almost $20. But this is not a movie. Unfortunately, I did not go on to become a multimillionaire and move to Dubai. Instead, my dreams were temporarily crushed as my position slowly lost value over the next couple of days and weeks. And I finally got the courage to check the stock again after a couple weeks, and I saw that I was now down more than $40. That was more than 7 months ago, and I still have not sold. I felt confident in 84-year-old Nancy Pelosi and decided to hold the stock along with my other long-term holds. I'm still holding to this day, and honestly, I don't know when I plan to sell, but probably before the end of the year. So as of right now, on Sunday, November 3rd, after buying one share, I'm up $53.55.
So like you just saw, I actually did end up selling not even a week after filming that last clip. Like I mentioned, I bought one share of PanW for a total of $309.45. And in that last clip, the price had risen all the way to $363. But in these last 4 days, it has risen even more to $386.16. And that's where I sold it for a $76.71 gain.
But this is kind of boring. There's not that much money, so let's get into something more interesting. I didn't just copy this trade from Nancy Pelosi. I also copied trades from two other supposedly rich traders. Starting with PB Investing, a 17-year-old kid who has an options trading group where you can just copy his trade.
Would like to mention real quickly that this is not at all how he promotes his community. They take measures to try and stop people from just taking his callouts and actively try and teach people actionable information. This is not a fair or accurate representation of PB Investing or anybody associated with his trading community. But just for the sake of this video, we're going to be taking his callouts and using our own risk management, so he would not recommend this and I would not recommend this either.
There's some more stuff like education, but supposedly if we just copy him like Nancy Pelosi, then we can make money, right? Well, it all started by joining his paid trading group, which cost me $130 a month, but it's now $150. That's a pretty insane price, but I mean, if I could just copy his trades, then I should be able to make all that money back. They had a ton of other stuff too, like trading education, some people giving callouts in community chats, and I engaged in all that, but who cares because you're here to see what actually matters. So the way that PB trades in the server is much different than Nancy Pelosi. Instead of holding the trades for upwards of a year, most of these trades start and end within the same day, a lot of them even being shorter than an hour. And the way he does this is by trading short-term options contracts, which are kind of hard to explain what exactly they are. So basically, I'm just gonna say it's a way to make your money worth more, in the sense that you could use less money and make and lose it quicker. So it's just a lot riskier. He has this chat where he tells you what stocks and contracts he's looking to buy, and most days he would also be on voice chat where he's just telling people his thoughts. So my plan was just to buy whatever he bought whenever he bought it, because if he's so successful, then I can do that too, right? Well, I tried it and had some success. I had some cool wins and profitable weeks and was learning on my own, but something bad happened. I was down money overall taking call outs. For some reason, his wins would always be way bigger than his losses, and I was trading the same contracts as him, but for some reason it just wasn't the same for me. There's probably a reason that taking call outs doesn't work, but I'm not smart enough to understand it just off the top of my head. Like, obviously you're not going to be learning the strategy, their risk management, and you're reliant on the person, but I feel like if you're copying exactly what they're doing, you still should get the same results, right? I don't know.
And so this overall loss that I took after taking callouts for these very quick trades made me switch it up for this third very successful investor. And notice how I said investor, not hot trader because this person holds positions for the long term. This person is currently the 7th richest man in the world, Warren Buffett. While copying PB investing, I was in and out of trades within a few hours at max, and I just sold the Nancy Pelosi trade after about 8 months. But I'm already over a year and a half deep into this Warren Buffett trade, and I don't have any plans of selling anytime soon. That's because instead of directly copying Warren Buffett and buying Berkshire Hathaway, I decided to just take his advice.
The best single thing you could have done was just buy an index fund and never look at a headline, never think about stocks anymore.
And I'm sure that many of you already know, but one time he bet a hedge fund manager that a S&P 500 index fund would outperform whatever group of funds that the manager chose over a 10-year period. And Warren Buffett was so confident that he even put $1 million on the line. And guess what? Just investing into an S&P 500 index fund outperformed the hedge fund manager. And a little side note, the $1 million he won from that bet, he ended up giving to charity. But anyway, using this information and taking advice from the 7th richest man in the world, Warren Buffett, with a net worth of over $140 billion, I started investing into an index fund that tracked the S&P 500 just like he said. Well, kinda. It was an ETF, and if you don't know the difference, they're very similar. So in April of 2023, I started by investing $10 and immediately was down 4 cents. But I knew this was the start of something long term, so I slowly just kept adding more and more to the position. By September, I almost had 1 full share, but was down about $5. I didn't get discouraged though because it had only been a few months, and I knew this was a long-term position. And by November of that same year, aka last year, I hadn't invested much more, but I now had about 1.1 shares, but was no longer in the negative. I was up about 2.5%, which was equivalent to about $11. I also decided to add an investment into an ETF that tracks the Nasdaq 100 index to see how it would do in comparison, and that was the Invesco QQQ ETF. For the next few months, I was investing $5 a day into VOO and QQQ, like you might have seen in one of my previous videos, and it was starting to pay off because by February, I had 1.3 shares of VOO, but was up almost 11.5% and over $65. I kept pushing, and by July, that had increased to over 2 shares and $166 in profit. So what am I at now after over a year and a half? Well, I stopped investing the $5 a day, so I still have about the same amount of shares, but I'm up over 26% or about $250 with just under $1,000 invested. And on top of that, I made a little less than $10 from dividends, which is free lunch, I guess. Well, not even actually, I guess maybe like a half a lunch. But how did my other position do with QQQ? Well, as of November 7th, I'm up over 26% and $200 with only $750 invested. So in summary, after trying to copy 3 successful traders, here are my results. Copying Nancy Pelosi after 8 months made me about $76. Copying PB investing lost me about $250, but there's definitely some user error there. And finally, copying Warren Buffett after a year and a half made me about $450. I'm gonna continue to invest and try new things out, but if you like this video, then I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. And a little bit earlier in the video, if you heard, I mentioned a different video of mine where I invested $5 a day for a year into a few stocks and ETFs. So if you want to see those results, then you can watch this video right here. And the video is about 6 months old, but I added a pinned comment with an update on how the portfolio is doing. All right, this video is 8 minutes. I'm good now.